The Chicago streets were buried under a relentless snowstorm, a gray-white blur where streetlights flickered faintly through the falling flakes. Every step Amara Johnson took crunched sharply on the ice, echoing in the otherwise empty avenues. The wind cut through her coat, stinging her cheeks, but she barely felt it. Tonight, the storm didn't matter. What mattered was the boy. She spotted him across the street, a fragile, small figure, zigzagging between parked cars. His thin backpack bounced with every hurried step, and his wide eyes darted around like he was being hunted. Behind him, a group of older teens surged forward, their voices sharp, venom-laced. Each insult struck the boy like a physical blow, and Amara's stomach twisted. She had seen that look before, the raw, unfiltered fear of being cornered. It was a look she knew from herself and from the nights she had sprinted through the city with Malik, her younger brother, trying to keep him safe. Without a moment's hesitation, Amara ran. Snow sprayed around her boots as she shouted, "Behind me!" Now, the teens froze, surprised at her sudden presence, but amusement and scorn glimmered in their eyes. Amara felt the sting of ice in her lungs and the burn in her legs, but her mind was singular: protect him. A baseball bat swung from the side, and pain seared through her shoulder as she dove in front of the boy. The metal struck her coat and shoulder, jolting her, but she stayed down, pressing him to the ground. Her heart raced, every nerve alert, but she could feel his panic gradually slowing as he realized she was shielding him. The world had narrowed to two people, the roar of the storm outside almost irrelevant. The sirens in the distance drew closer, and the teens cursed, scattering into the snowy streets. Amara exhaled sharply, pressing the boy's shaking body against her side. His breaths came in shallow gasps, misting in the freezing air. She reached into her backpack and pulled out the one thing she had left to give: a small, frayed blanket, thin but warm. She wrapped it around him, letting the fibers rub against her fingertips. "Someday," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the wind, "build a life where no one has to run." The boy clutched the blanket tight, eyes wide, nodding. He didn't speak again before dawn, and when the first pale morning light pierced the snowstorm, he was gone, vanished. The bridge that had sheltered them now felt unbearably empty. Amara's breath came in quick, uneven bursts, and the cold crept into her bones. She tried to stand, her ankle twisted sharply, ribs aching, her shoulder throbbing. The hospital bill would be astronomical, and yet none of it mattered as much as the hollowness in her chest. Her mother, already fragile, had passed away while Amara recovered, leaving her with Malik and a weight she hadn't fully understood before. Responsibility had always been her shadow, but tonight it pressed down heavier than ever. Amara glanced at the bridge again, the snow settling on its rusted beams, the flakes drifting like tiny ghosts in the morning light. Even in the midst of exhaustion and grief, a small spark of hope lingered. Somewhere out there, the boy she had saved would carry the memory of her courage. Somehow, she believed, he would grow into the life she had wished for him: a life without fear, without running, without nights spent hiding from danger. She closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the wind whip against her face, letting the snowflakes melt on her eyelashes. Each breath she took was shaky but deliberate, grounding herself. "Be safe," she murmured, her voice trembling. Well, that promise, unspoken between them, would travel across years, shaping destinies neither of them could yet imagine. Malik tugged on her hand gently, pulling her back to the reality of the streets. His small, cold fingers reminded her why she kept moving, why she endured, why she survived. The storm outside mirrored the storm within her: chaotic, endless, but strangely alive. She tightened her grip on her brother's hand, feeling his warmth against her cold skin, and in that moment, a fragile determination took root. Somewhere in the city, the boy she had saved would remember the blanket, the bridge, the selfless act of a stranger who had risked everything. And when that day came 10 years from this night, destinies would collide in ways neither of them could predict. For now, the snow fell in heavy, silent flakes, and Amara walked on, every step echoing courage, loss, hope, and the unspoken promise that had been made under the bridge, a promise that would not be forgotten.
If you're enjoying this story, please like the video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this.
10 years had passed since that snow-laden night under the old railway bridge, but for both Amara and the boy she had saved, the memory lingered like a quiet echo. He had grown into a man named Jae-min, a determined, sharp-minded Korean American, who had spent the decade building his own path, a thriving AI-driven transportation startup in the heart of Chicago. He wasn't a billionaire, not yet, but the city knew his name, and investors followed his every move. Technology was his kingdom, innovation his sword, yet the memory of a small girl who had risked everything for him haunted him every single day. Amara, on the other hand, had grown into her own version of resilience. She wasn't running anymore, not from the city, not from life, and certainly not from her responsibilities. She worked as a city bus mechanic, a role she had chosen out of necessity, but had grown to love. She fixed engines, maintained schedules, and made sure the buses kept rolling, all while raising her younger brother Malik. Life hadn't been kind, but she had a quiet pride in her independence and in the community she protected. The day Jae-min's company launched its new electric bus project, the same depot where Amara worked buzzed with activity. Engineers in crisp jackets, interns with clipboards, and city officials in polished shoes filled the space. Jae-min walked in, scanning the depot with professional precision, unaware that Amara, greasy gloves and all, was tightening a faulty brake system on one of the buses just a few feet away. Their eyes met for a fleeting moment, but recognition did not strike. Jae-min noticed a spark in her gaze, a stubborn intelligence, a fire that reminded him of something he couldn't yet place. Amara, on the other hand, saw a confident young man, perfectly groomed, carrying himself like he owned the city. She didn't know why her stomach clenched, but instinctively, she braced herself. The first confrontation came over the project's design. Amara noticed flaws in the AI integration with the bus's manual overrides. "You can't rely solely on your AI system," she said firmly, wiping her hands on her grease-stained jacket. "If it fails during peak hours, it's on us, the drivers and mechanics, to keep people safe." Jae-min's eyes narrowed slightly. "The system is fully tested. We have simulations that account for every scenario," he said, his tone calm but authoritative. Amara shook her head. "Simulations don't fix reality. Lives are at stake here. I've seen things break, engines fail, and people get hurt. Trust me, this won't work the way you think." He studied her carefully, sensing both defiance and expertise. There was something oddly familiar in her insistence, a rhythm in her speech that tugged at a distant memory. But he pushed it aside. Business was priority. Results mattered. Safety could wait. Their exchanges became frequent over the following days. She challenged his designs, questioned his assumptions, and even bypassed his approvals when she deemed necessary for safety. For every confident statement Jae-min made, Amara countered with evidence, logic, and raw experience. Their debates crackled with tension, sometimes heated, sometimes quiet and sharp, and every interaction left them both unsettled. Yet beneath the friction, a subtle connection simmered. A glance held too long, a protective gesture toward a junior engineer, a shared laugh when a bus misfired, small, almost imperceptible threads weaving a bond neither could yet name. Amara's friends in the depot began noticing. "There's something about him, huh?" whispered Malik's friend, catching her staring at Jae-min once too often. She shook her head, trying to dismiss it, but even she couldn't deny the magnetic pull. Meanwhile, Jae-min couldn't shake the feeling that this woman was tied to a story long buried, a piece of his past he had yet to retrieve. There was a familiar determination in her eyes, a courage in her posture that haunted him. Every time she defied him, it felt personal, yet maddeningly necessary. Then came the day that almost broke the delicate equilibrium. Amara discovered a serious flaw in the AI's obstacle detection, a rare but potentially catastrophic error during heavy snow conditions. She knew that if she reported it, the project's launch would be delayed, investors would panic, and Jae-min's reputation could take a hit. But she also knew that ignoring it could endanger lives. She found him alone in the depot's office, reviewing data on multiple screens. "Jae-min," she said, voice low but firm, The AI can fail in snow-heavy conditions. If you launch without fixing it, people could get seriously hurt. I can't let that happen. He looked up, tension rising. Delays aren't acceptable. We've promised the city a launch date. She took a step closer, meeting his gaze directly. Some promises are worth breaking if lives are on the line. And this isn't about business. It's about people. The intensity in her eyes hit him like a jolt of electricity. For a split second, memory brushed the edges of his mind: the snow, the bridge, the small girl handing him a blanket, her voice whispering a promise. He blinked, heart racing. Could it be? Amara, oblivious to the recognition stirring inside him, turned back to the buses. I'll fix it myself if I have to. But I'm not standing by while this project becomes a danger. As she walked away, the memory fully came rushing back. The blanket, the bridge, the night she had saved him. Jae-min felt his chest tighten. 10 years of searching, of piecing together fragments, had led to this moment. And now she was right there, arguing with him, challenging him, refusing to bend. The city outside remained indifferent, snow continuing to fall in thick, silent flakes. Inside the depot, two lives so painfully intertwined were colliding again, neither yet fully aware of the past that bound them. And for the first time in a decade, Jae-min knew one thing with absolute clarity: he couldn't let her walk away again. The winter sun had barely pierced the gray clouds over Chicago, casting pale, hesitant light across the depot. Amara wiped grease from her hands, tightening a bolt on the electric bus. Every sound echoed in the vast warehouse, engines humming, footsteps crunching on icy concrete, the muffled chatter of engineers and interns. She glanced up, sensing someone watching. Jae-min stepped forward, his expression tense but calm, holding a tablet and a cup of coffee he hadn't sipped. He studied her closely, and for the first time, recognition flickered across his eyes, not just in a memory, but in a rush of emotions that had been buried for 10 years. Amara didn't notice. To her, he was the confident tech founder she'd been sparring with, the man whose AI design she constantly challenged. But something in the way he paused, the intensity of his gaze, made her heart skip a beat. Amara, he said, his voice low, almost shaking with the weight of realization. Do you remember me? Amara froze, wrench in hand. Excuse me? Her voice was steady, but her pulse quickened. He stepped closer, careful not to crowd her. The bridge, 10 years ago, snowstorm, the blanket, you saved me. The world seemed to pause. Amara's mind scrambled, memories surfacing in fragmented images: snow crunching, a shoulder bruised, a small, worn blanket draped over a shivering boy. Her breath caught. Could it be? She looked at him, really looked, and the pieces clicked into place. You're Jae-min. Her voice trembled slightly. The boy from the bridge? His nod was slow, hesitant, almost fearful. Yes, I've been looking for you ever since that night. Every year, every city street, every life I built, I thought about that night, about the promise you made. And now, here you are. Amara's hands dropped the wrench. For a moment, they stood in stunned silence, the depot's noise fading into the background. Malik peeked from behind a bus, sensing the tension, but Amara barely registered him. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them back. I didn't think you'd remember. I couldn't forget, he whispered, stepping closer. His voice carried a mix of gratitude, awe, and something more profound, a warmth that made Amara's chest ache. You risked everything for me. Everything. The air between them seemed to hum with the unspoken. 10 years of distance, of missed connections, of life choices, all converged in this single moment. Yet reality intruded sharply. I can't just forget that you're the founder of this company, Amara said, her tone careful, guarded. Your project, my work, they're on opposite sides. If I let safety slide, people could get hurt. If I oppose you, your launch could fail. I can't risk my responsibility or the community I protect. Jae-min's jaw tightened. And I can't compromise the future I built, Amara. You know that. We both have responsibilities. But seeing you now, here it's different. You're not just someone from my past. You're the reason I've pushed forward, every single day. Their eyes locked. The unspoken tension was palpable. Trust and class differences, personal sacrifice versus professional ambition. They were both stubborn, both principled, both unwilling to bend, yet neither could ignore the invisible thread tying them together. Amara took a step back, unsure whether to embrace the moment or hold her ground. "You don't understand what it's been like. 10 years, raising Malik, working these buses, keeping people safe. While the city changes around us, it's not just about memories, it's about survival." "I do understand," he said quietly, "and I respect that. I respect you. I just wish you could see what your courage inspired in me, how much it shaped me, even now." She looked away, emotions churning. Pride, nostalgia, frustration, all tangled with a hint of longing. "I never thought someone I saved would grow up and come back like this. It's overwhelming." For a moment, silence reigned. The depot felt smaller, the space between them charged. Then Jae-min reached into his bag and pulled out a small object, the frayed blanket, preserved all these years. Slightly faded but still soft. He held it out to her. Amara gasped. Her fingers trembled as she reached out, touching the familiar fabric. Memories flooded her: snow, fear, warmth, sacrifice. The boy she had saved. This man had remembered everything. "I never forgot," he said, voice thick with emotion. "I wanted to find you, to thank you properly. And now that I have." His words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken possibilities. She looked up at his glistening, heart racing. For the first time, the years of struggle and isolation felt worth it, not because of recognition alone, but because fate had brought them together. Still strong, still stubborn, still alive. Outside, the city continued to hum, indifferent to the reunion unfolding inside the depot. Inside, two lives converged with a quiet intensity that promised danger, challenges, and undeniable connection. And for the first time in a decade, Amara and Jae-min both realize some promises are never forgotten, some bonds never break, and some love born in the harshest storm cannot be denied. The depot hummed with life as the first prototypes of Jae-min's electric buses lined the bays. Amara moved from one vehicle to another, checking engines and brakes, her gloves streaked with oil and her mind buzzing with concern. She had spent the last few days observing the AI integration, uncovering small but dangerous flaws that could endanger passengers if ignored. Every system test felt like a countdown, every engine hum a reminder that failure could cost lives. Jae-min walked past her, tablet in hand, his eyes scanning performance metrics. He noticed the tight line of tension in her shoulders, the way she pressed her lips when a thought struck her. There was something infuriatingly admirable about her insistence on doing things right, even when it clashed with his ambitious timelines. "Amara," he called, stepping closer, careful to keep his tone measured. "I understand your concerns, but the city board is pushing for this launch. Delays aren't an option. Every day we stall, investors get nervous, and the project loses credibility." She looked up, her eyes sharp, unwavering. "And what happens when your AI fails mid-route during rush hour? People could get hurt, Jae-min. I won't let that happen on my watch." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "I get it. I do. But there's a bigger picture here. If we delay, the city privatizes its transport entirely. That affects more people than a single malfunction ever could. I need you to trust me on this." Amara's jaw tightened. "Trust is earned. And right now, your so-called bigger picture could ruin the community I've spent years protecting. These buses are my responsibility too. These people rely on me." The tension between them sparked like electricity, filling the depot with an almost tangible energy. Then Jae-min noticed something. As Amara reached upward to adjust a diagnostic cable, her sleeve slid back slightly, revealing a thin, faded scar along her forearm. His breath caught. A memory flashed: snow falling under the bridge, headlights approaching, a teenage girl shoving him out of the street. The sound of impact, the hospital hallway, the doctor mentioning broken ribs and a deep cut on her arm from shattered glass. His heart began to pound. He looked closer. Amara walked to a tool cart and picked up a wrench. Hanging from the cart handle was a worn piece of fabric tied like a rag, gray, frayed, and patched with dark thread. Jae-min froze. "That stitching," He remembered it clearly. The blanket had been torn on exposed metal beneath the bridge, and the girl had laughed softly while stitching it with black thread from her coat pocket. His voice came out quieter than he expected. "Where did you get that cloth?" Amara glanced at the fabric, confused. "This? Just an old scrap. Had it for years." "Why?" Jae-min stepped closer, eyes locked on the frayed material. "Did you ever live near the old railway bridge on Halsted Street?" Amara's expression changed instantly. Her body stiffened. "How do you know about that?" she asked cautiously. Jae-min's chest tightened, emotion rising faster than he could control. 10 years ago, he said slowly. During a snowstorm, a girl hid a runaway kid under that bridge. She gave him her last blanket. Silence swallowed the noise of the depot. Amara stared at him. The memory hit her like cold wind. The freezing night, the terrified Korean boy, the police sirens in the distance. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You remember that?" Jae-min reached into his coat pocket with trembling hands and pulled out the frayed blanket, carefully folded, preserved despite the years. "I never forgot," he said. Amara's eyes widened. "That's impossible," she breathed. Their eyes locked, past and present colliding. Malik appeared at the edge of the bay, clutching his notebook. "Amara," he whispered, "they're talking about cutting our routes downtown if the launch goes through. That means fewer buses for everyone, for the kids and families." The moment cracked, reality rushing back in. Amara swallowed hard, emotions storming beneath her calm exterior. She looked back at Jae-min, unsure, shaken, but unable to deny the truth forming between them. "You see," she said, voice quieter now, "this isn't just a project. These are people's lives." Jae-min nodded slowly, still processing the realization. "You saved me," he said softly. She didn't respond, but she didn't deny it either. Outside, the snow continued to fall softly, dusting the depot's glass roof with delicate flakes. Inside, something far bigger than a business disagreement had begun to unfold. Two lives that once crossed under a freezing bridge were colliding again, not by accident, but by fate. And neither of them would ever be the same. The depot was alive with controlled chaos. Engineers scurried between buses, tapping at tablets, adjusting sensors, while city officials observed every move with sharp eyes. Outside, snow had stopped, leaving the streets slick and reflective, the city's lights shimmering like liquid gold. Amid the bustle, Amara moved like a force of nature, her hands skilled, her eyes sharp, every movement precise. She wasn't just a mechanic, she was the guardian of her community's safety. Jae-min followed her from a distance, keeping pace, notebook in hand. He watched as she directed an intern to double-check a sensor, corrected a misaligned panel, and then crouched to inspect a brake system. He had seen engineers before, technicians, even prodigies, but none had her combination of authority, care, and raw experience. His chest tightened not just with admiration, but with something deeper he hadn't allowed himself to name. "Amara," he called softly, careful not to interrupt her rhythm. She looked up, wiping sweat and grease from her brow. "Yes. We need to talk about the launch schedule," he said, lowering his voice. "The board is demanding results. Delaying could cost funding, and if the city privatizes before a rollout, it could lock the community out of public transport entirely." Amara's jaw clenched. "I understand your point, Jae-min, but if we launch and the AI fails even once that lives, you don't get to gamble with people's safety for investors." He stepped closer, his voice calmer, more measured. "I'm not gambling. We're testing, adapting, but I need you with me on this. Not against me." Her gaze softened, but only slightly. "I've always been on my own side first. Always. And that's never going to change." Tension crackled in the space between them like a live wire. And yet, beneath the surface, the air shimmered with unspoken attraction. Neither admitted it, but every glance, every measured step, every exchange carried weight beyond the professional. Suddenly, a sharp alarm rang out, a sensor error on one of the buses. Amara dashed over, followed closely by Jae-min. The AI had misread a crosswalk signal during the latest trial run. A minor collision had been avoided, but the near miss sent a shock through everyone in the depot. I told you, Amara snapped, voice taut with urgency and frustration. This is why we can't launch without fixing every single variable. You think simulations are enough? You think numbers can replace real-life consequences? Jae-min's hands clenched at his sides, a mix of anger and helplessness. I know, but we're running out of time, Amara. Investors are breathing down my neck. I can't delay anymore. She turned to him, her eyes blazing. Then maybe you don't understand what it's like to be responsible for people every day, Jae-min. Maybe you've never had a brother to protect, a neighborhood to defend, a life that depends on your every choice. That's reality, not simulations, not projections. Her words hit him like a physical blow. He paused, seeing her not just as the girl from his memory, but as the woman she had become, fearless, grounded, unwavering. His chest ached, a mix of regret and admiration. Amara, he began, voice softer now, almost a whisper. I see it. I see everything you're doing, and I don't want to fight you. I just want to find a way to protect both the community and this project. Can we figure it out together? Her gaze softened slightly, vulnerability flickering in her eyes. Together? He nodded, stepping closer, careful not to overwhelm her. Yes, together, you and me, not just for the launch, but for everything. I've been holding on to memories, promises, and mistakes for 10 years. I don't want to hold on to this conflict too. Amara hesitated, heart hammering. The depot seemed to fade around them, the hum of engines, the chatter of engineers, the flashing warning lights all dimmed as if the world had narrowed to this moment. She saw the boy she had saved under the bridge, the man he had become, the subtle kindness behind his sharp eyes, the determination to make the world better. And she realized that 10 years of distance hadn't erased anything. A brief silence hung between them, heavy with unspoken words, memories, and possibilities. Then Jae-min reached into his coat pocket, producing the frayed blanket from the bridge, carefully folded. He held it out to her, eyes locking with hers. Amara, he said, voice steady, soft, and full of emotion. This isn't just a reminder of the past. It's proof that some promises never fade, that some connections survive everything. And I don't want to let us slip away again. Amara's hands shook slightly as she reached for the blanket, fingers brushing his. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. Emotions collided: grief for lost years, pride for surviving, longing for connection, and the thrill of possibility. Outside, the city continued its indifferent rhythm, unaware of the storm of tension, passion, and trust rebuilding inside the depot. Inside, two lives, once separated by circumstance, were converging, teetering between professional duty, community responsibility, and an undeniable, fragile love. And in that moment, amid alarms, hums, and flickering lights, both Amara and Jae-min realized that compromise, understanding, and trust might be the only way forward, not just for the buses, the project, or the community, but for their hearts. The depot was tense, every hum of machinery magnified by the nerves of those inside. The final AI integration tests had begun. Outside, the streets glistened from the recent snow, reflecting streetlights like molten gold. Jae-min stood near the command panel, eyes flicking between monitors, while Amara paced beside the prototype bus, her hands trembling slightly as she reviewed the sensor calibration one last time. Everyone, listen up. Amara's voice rang out, sharp and commanding. We're not risking anyone's safety today. Double-check every line, every sensor, every brake response. If anything is off, we stop immediately. Understood? A chorus of affirmative murmurs followed, but tension lingered in the air. The engineers knew the stakes, and so did the officials, observing from the side. This was not just a test, it was a statement. Could technology serve the people without sacrificing their safety? Could a girl who had survived hardships under the harshest conditions help save an entire community? Jae-min glanced at Amara, his heart pounding. Are you sure about this? He asked softly. Amara met his gaze, determination blazing. I've never been more sure of anything. The buses began their trial runs. Lights flashed, sensors beeped, and AI-controlled systems moved with precision. Amara followed each vehicle, her eyes scanning for any anomaly, while Jae-min coordinated adjustments remotely. For a few tense minutes, everything went smoothly. The buses navigated intersections, pedestrians, and traffic flawlessly. Then, suddenly, an unexpected error flashed on the central monitor. One of the buses misread a pedestrian signal, veering dangerously close to a crosswalk. Engineers gasped, some stepping back instinctively. Amara sprinted to the vehicle, adrenaline surging, and manually activated the emergency override. "Brake! Brake! Brake!" she shouted, her hands flying over the controls. The bus jolted, stopping just inches from a simulated pedestrian dummy. Silence fell, the weight of near disaster pressing down on the depot. Jae-min exhaled sharply, relief and frustration mixing. "That was close. You saved it." Amara turned to him, cheeks flushed, eyes glistening. "And we're not done yet. This isn't perfect, and it won't be until we respect every real-life variable." He stepped closer, his voice quiet, sincere. "You've been right all along. I never wanted to admit it, but I've learned from you, from your courage, your instincts, your refusal to compromise." Amara's heart skipped, a strange warmth spreading through her. For the first time, the professional and personal blurred, and she felt the boy from the bridge and the man standing before her, the same one who had once depended on her, now standing with her as an equal. Jae-min, she began, hesitating. "I don't usually trust people with everything, but with you, I..." Her voice faltered, emotions raw. He reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Amara, I've never forgotten you, and I don't intend to let the past or our differences keep us apart anymore. I want to build a life with you, side by side, not just for the project, but with you." Tears threatened, and she blinked rapidly, holding his gaze. "Side by side," she whispered. The moment was interrupted by the last test sequence, a final, citywide simulation, tracking all buses, traffic, and pedestrian patterns. Both Amara and Jae-min monitored in tandem, communicating silently through gestures and quick commands. The AI responded flawlessly, adapting to every challenge, every sudden change in environment, every simulated emergency. The depot erupted in controlled celebration. Engineers clapped, officials nodded approvingly, and the buses returned to their bays with precision. For the first time, it felt like a victory not only for technology, but for trust, collaboration, and the human element guiding every decision. Jae-min exhaled, finally letting himself smile fully. "We did it, together." Amara looked at him, a smile breaking through the tension. "We really did." He reached into his pocket and produced the frayed blanket, now carefully preserved, holding it between them. "This was my first reminder that courage changes everything. You gave me a chance when I had none. And now, I want to make sure we both get the life we deserve. Together." Amara's eyes filled, and she took the blanket in her hands, feeling the weight of history, sacrifice, and hope. She stepped closer, their foreheads almost touching. "Then let's make that life, Jae-min. No more running, no more promises left unfulfilled." Outside, Chicago's streets glisten under the night lights, oblivious to the reunion, triumph, and quiet confession unfolding within a single depot. Inside, two lives, intertwined by past, present, and shared courage, finally began to converge fully, professionally, emotionally, and romantically. And as the night deepened, the hum of engines and soft whir of AI systems echoed the rhythm of their hearts, steady, synchronized, and ready to face the world together. The first light of dawn filtered through the depot's high windows, painting the snow-dusted floors in shades of soft gold. The hum of the buses was now a gentle rhythm, a quiet victory after days of chaos, tension, and near disasters. Amara walked slowly through the bays, hands brushing over the polished exteriors of the electric buses, each one a symbol of lives protected and promises kept. Jae-min followed, careful to give her space, but the anticipation in his chest was unbearable. The past 10 years, the distance, the memories of that frigid night under the bridge, the blanket, the silent sacrifices, everything had led to this moment. "Everything stayed," Amara said finally, her voice soft, almost contemplative. "The systems are fully synced." AI responded to every real-life scenario flawlessly. "The city can safely launch public trials." Jae-min stepped closer, a small, nervous smile tugging at his lips. "We did it, together. No compromises, no shortcuts. Just trust and teamwork." Amara's eyes met his, the weight of unspoken words filling the air. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. 10 years ago gave you something I didn't think would matter. My last blanket. I thought I was just protecting you then. Never imagined it would bring us back here." Jae-min's hand went to the pocket where he had carefully kept that frayed, worn piece of fabric, the bridge, the snow, the girl who had saved his life, all memories bundled in that one object. He pulled it out slowly and held it between them. "This blanket," he whispered, eyes glistening, "reminded me of courage, of trust, of what's worth fighting for. I promised myself I would find you again. I promised I wouldn't let us slip away." Amara's fingers trembled as she touched the fabric, tracing its frayed edges. A rush of memories flooded her, the freezing night, the fear, the quiet bravery, and the boy she had risked everything to save. And now, standing before her, was the man who had kept that promise in every action, every decision, every moment. I never thought we'd get here," she admitted softly, her voice breaking slightly. "But you kept your promise too." Jae-min stepped closer, tentatively brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I did, and I don't plan on breaking any more promises. Not to you, not to anyone who depends on me." Their foreheads met, breaths mingling, the hum of the depot and distant city sounds fading into nothing as the weight of the moment settled around them. They were no longer just mechanic and entrepreneur. Survivor and save, they were equals. Partners. And now, perhaps, something deeper. Outside, the city stirred. The public trial had begun, buses moving flawlessly, AI systems adapting seamlessly to traffic, pedestrians, and unforeseen variables. Community members cheered from the sidewalks, families waving as children boarded the buses safely. Every smile, every relieved sigh, was a testament to the courage, skill, and dedication of Amara and the team that had supported her, including Jae-min. "Look," she said, finally breaking the silence, pointing to the bustling streets outside. "We made it. They're safe. The community is safe. Everything we fought for worked." Jae-min smiled, a rare, unguarded expression, eyes locked on hers. "Yes, because we fought together. And now, I think it's time we stop running from the past, from promises, from each other." Amara laughed softly, a sound full of relief, hope, and joy. "Stop running, huh? Easy to say after 10 years. But worth it," he said, gently taking her hand. "Every step, every risk, every moment led to this, and I don't want to waste another second." The sun had risen fully now, casting warm light through the depot. For the first time in years, Amara allowed herself to relax, to breathe, to hope. She squeezed Jae-min's hand, feeling a connection that had survived time, trials, and distance. "I want that too," she admitted. "A life where we don't run, where we face everything together." Their eyes met, and for a moment, silence wrapped around them, a silence filled with understanding, trust, and the quiet joy of two people finally finding each other. Then, Jae-min leaned closer, voice low and sincere. "Amara, stay with me. Not just tonight, not just for this project, but always. Let's build that life we promised." Tears threatened again, but this time, they were tears of happiness. Amara nodded, heartful, emotions overflowing. "Yes, let's do it. Together." Outside, the city moved on, unaware of the quiet miracle inside the depot. A life saved, a promise kept, love found, and trust rebuilt. The buses hummed, the AI whirred perfectly, and two hearts, once separated by circumstance, now beat in synchrony, ready to face a world of endless possibilities. And beneath it all, the frayed blanket lay between them, a simple reminder that courage, trust, and love can endure anything.